Hi, my name is Lucy Davis, and I'm back with Poppin with Phonics, a multi-sensory approach to phonics and reading. The last time that I left you, we I presented on Scarborough's reading rope and ultimately the need for systematic explicit instruction for primary readers when they are learning reading comprehension. We know reading comprehension involves two pieces: language comprehension, word recognition. And as students build both, automaticity in reading becomes more fluid and they become more fluent readers. Popping with Phonics focused on word recognition, which is phonological awareness, decoding, and sight word recognition. So my students received explicit instruction in phonics-based skills where they were given tools to allow for multi-sensory approaches. My action plan, we followed a sequential program. We had multi-sensory instruction, and my students used decodable readers in order to isolate the skills that they had been learning in written word. So an example of Poppin with Phonics within my own classroom begins like this.
The word is shut. How many sounds? What was the vowel sound? Good job. Let's try another one. The word is beast. Poppin. How many sounds? What was the vowel? Good job.
So we know that when we watched that video, my students were able to count the number of phonemes in a word, which included digraphs. Sh is a digraph and it counts as one sound, but they were also able to isolate the vowel sound, whether it's long or short, which is a very high level activity for students to do in order to be able to read. So this is what daily instruction looked like for my students when it came to Poppin with Phonics. In addition to that, students had accessible to decodable readers, which are predictable text that follows a skill. And when we look at the results, I looked at their AR scores, their decodable readers, and spelling and diction. So when we look at my data, one of the things that I tracked was their MAP data. MAP is our universal screener for kindergarten, first and second grade, and it assesses where they're at using a standard program. So these are my scores, my class average for MAP data. Beginning of the year, my class was 160, middle of the year, my class was 164, and end of year, my class was 171. My class met all benchmarks in reading on their universal screener. Now, again, is this directly related to my KVET grant and Poppin with Phonics? No, because we know that reading is a multidimensional content area. We cannot say for certain what one single instructional strategy does to create better readers, but we know that systematic explicit instruction will make achievement gains for students. In addition, when I think of my 13 first graders, I have 9 students who are reading grade level decodable text, 2 students who are reading grade level decodable words, and 1 student who is still working on CVC words and CCVC words. It is important to note that because of small class sizes, the RTI triangle, the breakdown of RTI services was very clear in my classroom this year. I had about 80% of students who were able to receive whole group instruction with effortless practice, and they were able to make their gains and take ownership of that phonics knowledge. With small group instruction, I had 2 students who were able to build up to word reading, and they're still working on reading connected sentences and text. And I have 1 student who is still working to close in some gaps. And so it's important to note that when we have smaller class sizes and we're delivering quality whole group instruction, it's easier to see the deficits of your students. When we think about all of the work that I've done with Poppin with Phonics and the work in my own classroom, what are the implications for instruction? Number 1, teachers have to receive professional development. Everything I have learned about the science of reading has been self-taught. I've asked my administration to send me to professional developments. I've watched webinars on my own, but ultimately the responsibility for learning quality instruction for phonics falls on the teacher in the school. So in order to have systematic explicit instruction, we're going to have strong curriculum and strong professional developments. In addition, once you have a strong curriculum for phonics, you have to have strong assessments. Students have to be able to encode and decode in order for you to see where they're at with the ownership of a specific phonics skill. So for example, if students are working with vowel teams all week during class, then their assessment needs to be on vowel teams and it needs to mirror the practice and the purpose that they had in whole group. And lastly, phonics instruction has to be multisensory. In order to engage all pathways in the brain, students have to be using their hands, using motions, and using their mouths, especially when we think about assessments, right? I tell my kids all the time, you can't take a spelling test and sit quietly because how are you hearing the sounds in the word? So slowly transitioning that school of thought that multisensory instruction is going to build a more engaging classroom. Ultimately, my research time with Poppin with Phonics has led me to be a better teacher for my students, and it has ultimately opened up my eyes to the need for quality instruction in kindergarten, first and second, in order to create proficient readers in upper grades. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you for your time today.